Life is made up of so many moments, big and small.
Hey, Dad, it's your turn.
Sometimes the best memories are just time well spent together. Only time will tell what our most cherished moments will be. Montana Moments. Celebrate what matters.
Well, welcome to episode number 76 of According to Flint. As I welcome the 2001 Rookie of the Year and World Finals champion, Luke Snyder, assistant general manager, one of the coaches. I don't want to say you're the assistant coach of the Missouri Thunder, because that would tell us you are below Ross Coleman, and I won't have that. I will not have it here.
You know what, Ross? It's hard to match that enthusiasm Ross has, but no, he's great. He's one of the best motivators in sports. So you can call me whatever you want there, but we share the duties as best we can.
Is Ross one of the best motivators in sports, or one of the most entertaining guys to watch in sports?
Oh gosh, he'll get into it. It's something that is really special to watch. That's for
sure. When I interviewed him, you guys got shut out of a game, and the next night I interviewed him on the back of the chutes. I always pick one of you depending where you are. And I always warn you, hey, we're going to talk before the first guy. I said, you guys started out, you've been on a roll. You got shut out last night. That's been addressed. And he just stared right through me. I hate to lose. I hate losing. We're not going to lose. And I'm like, dude, I didn't do it. Like,
yeah,
guy's intense.
He's still got that passion. You know, you were there when he was riding. I mean, everybody fed off that, and he was always that guy that was in your ear, and you may be losing, but you know, it was always, you were only one bull away from a streak and getting right back on it with him. So
yeah. I should have mentioned, by the way, recently a dad again, right?
Yeah, I did it again. So he's about 7 weeks old today. Ranger, we named him. But yeah, pretty exciting. It's fun to be a dad again, an old dad. I'm 40 years old now, but it's keeping me young.
Yeah, because you have a daughter, correct?
Yeah, I got a 9-year-old daughter named Ollie. So she's going to be a built-in babysitter, hopefully.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she'll be right there. She like little brother Ranger, does she?
Yeah, she did. She was pretty upset when she first found out it wasn't going to be a sister, but she got over it, and she's been a big help now.
And I said this. It's funny because my last episode, 75, and I apologize that he took the 75th episode. But the episode before this, I think Brendan Clark was our previous episode, the one and only Brendan Clark. Did you guys retire the same year? Were you on the stage together when they farewelled you? Was that you two?
You know what? I should remember that. I think it was just me, because Shivers retired 1 year before me, and then I retired the next year. Yeah, you're right. Brendan and I did. It was same exact year. Yeah, because they threw a retirement party for us at the that Jonathan Fine's place the night after the final. So yeah, our last year was together.
My brain kind of works in pictures and visuals, and I remember being on the backside of that center shark cage, and you were both up on top of it. I just remember seeing you guys together. I remember Brendan was very emotional, but I just remember you guys acknowledging the crowd. Pretty good pair. And I said to him on his episode, when I start looking back at the things he did and the things you did, our references seem to become more recent. I forget how good and consistent you guys were. Like, let's talk about him first, just since I brought it up.
Yeah,
that Brendan Clark, he was tough.
He was really tough. I mean, I remember the first day I met him, he'd come over here from Australia, and it was up north at a bull riding, and he had this hat on that looked like he just walked here in a torrential downpour,
That's an Australian thing. That's an Australian thing.
So it didn't take him long to get the lay of the land, and he had a little better shaped belt on the next weekend. But yeah, he fit right in. He had some bull that either Ross and I had rode before, and we told him how many points we were on that bull, and I think he went out there and ended up sticking it on him. But Brendan and I became really fast friends, and we roomed together the majority of our careers.
Yeah, it's funny that there's something about Australians. It's the culture or something. And they all look like the man from Snowy River or something. Their hats are droopy and dirty. And I always visualize Greg Potter. Remember
Absolutely. Potts? Oh yeah. Roll your own cigarettes too. And he'd roll his own cigarettes in the locker room. But I loved it. I loved Australia. A lot of people may not know this, but I went down there 13 times in my career. And rode down there on an invite during the summertime. And I love the country. Like it was beautiful.
Yeah. I always say, and you look at them now, Australians and Canadians, not that I'm, encouraging this. They still know how to fight. Have you noticed that? Like Canadians are hockey players and Australians, I think they box a lot, but they'll drop gloves. They'll go right away at drop of a hat.
Oh, absolutely. Australia is one of those countries where everybody's running or everybody's working out on the side of the road and everybody's boxing. That's their national pastime is fighting, I think. So they're all really scrappy and they're all in good shape. Take Troy Dunn, for example. He's like the unofficial spokesman for rodeo in Australia, and you wouldn't want to mess with that guy.
No, and he's every time Troy Dunn comes up, for one, a lot of people consider him in their top 5 or 10 bull riders of all time. A lot of people do, but then the next topic is usually, man, remember when he beat up those guys playing pool and blah blah blah. It goes hand in hand. In looking up, before I talk to you guys, I look up to refresh my memory of things. For number one, how many PBR World Finals did you qualify for?
I went to 13, all 13 years I rode.
That seems, do you think guys were affecting, it's almost a rhetorical question, the length of guys' careers with the animals they're getting on now?
You got to. I've heard other people on here kind of say the same thing. I think, we had those dragons back in our day. But, there's no comparison to what these guys are getting on in the current state. The breeding program and the genetics are just on another level. So I think that it's hard to put a run of events together, let alone a run of finals. Guys are paying the dues and seems like, the harder the animal athlete, the harder it is on the guy's body too.
Yeah. Yeah. What I notice it, and people will tell me, no way, the bulls were just as good. And it's by no means a knock on you guys. You guys were getting on great bulls but I kind of went through them all. I started 97 was my first world final. So I've kind of seen the generations of guys and bulls. The difference where you really can notice it is how guys land. In my mind, that's what I think. I always say they get dick slammed so hard. That's where I see my gauge of the difference in what they're riding is how hard they hit.
Sure. No, a lot of these bulls, the peak of their kick is higher. The quickness of their spin is faster, but don't get me wrong. You can easily take a ride from the late 90s and put it with a current best bull here, and there is going to be a night and day difference. But that's with any sport. It's always going to progress, and you almost see it every 10 years or so. But I'm not saying you couldn't take a Jim Sharp or a guy from that era and put him in this era and they wouldn't be successful. You just adapt to the animals that you're around, and the greats adapt.
I agree with you. I think that is a point through all of this. We've talked about this a lot with a lot of guests on here, out just guys sitting around. I don't know that anybody really has clarified that point. I see it in, you know, the NBA or the NFL. They say that guy, you can't put him in the top 20 players of all time. He was only such and such big, but you put him here, they adapt. A guy like Jim Sharp, the way he rode, he would fit all of these and adapt to that. I agree with you.
Yeah, he was going to be a great bull rider no matter what era you put him in. And that's just one, a long list of guys that I could say the same thing about.
Yeah, because they talk about Jim Sharp rodeo, and I just was on another podcast, Ted Stoven's podcast up in Canada, Cowboy Shit.
Yeah.
And me and Clint Atkins, and we were supposed to come with our 10 best bull riders of all time. Then he had this spreadsheet analytics, and we kept saying Jim Sharp, and he kept saying the numbers don't check out. The numbers don't put him in the top 10. Well, I told him, you don't have every rodeo he ever went to where he rode 37 bulls in a row or rode 92% on the year. And
Sure.
People say, well, what was he riding? That is still, that transfers over, you know, that
Right.
he would adapt completely.
All the bull stats lists and everything out there doesn't track back to that era, I'm sure. But what was his list? Pretty much consumed by Canadians.
I don't think he had a Canadian in the all time. He talked
But
about
it was more
Canadian
just like current guys. Like it was more current guys that he was basing it off of, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my top 10. It was, you know, top 3 for me were, would I have, and not in any order, but I'll give you, you know, three to 5. I had Jim Sharp, of course, Justin McBride to me. And I think it was because I was right at the middle of my career. And it was not only just McBride's riding ability, but I was affected by the kind of guy he was and a friend to me. So, you know, and I had I think I had Chris Shivers in there. Funny how I draw blank. JB Mooney was in there, of course, you know, so it wasn't real modern. And I don't know, is the guy's resume long enough that you throw Jose Vitor Leme in the top 10 bull riders of all time? Can we do that yet?
I think you got to. I mean, he hasn't even finished what he's going to accomplish, obviously, but I mean, even all the greats will tell you right now. I mean, I think he's established himself right up there in there. I think he's paid his dues, and he's proved plenty so far to be categorized as one of the all times.
Yeah. What about you? What? Since I wasn't going to go this direction, give me 3 right off the top of your head when people ask you, because I know you've probably been asked. Give me 3 to 5 of those guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing that the most generic answer in the world, but he's a guy that you can stem everybody back to is Lane Frost. I mean, we all learned the story of Lane Frost. His career was cut short, but another guy that you could have took from that era in his prime, put him in this era, and he would have thrived too. So, I mean, you got to have that guy's name in the conversation anytime you're talking. You know, Tough Hedeman and Cody Lambert will all tell you he was the greatest they've ever seen in that era. So he's in there for me. You know, he passed away when I was like 6 years old, but throughout my career, early starting, I've watched every tape available and every ride that he's done. So he'd be in there for me. And then a lot of the guys you named, Adriano Moraes, when he was on, he's, you know, incredible. The first 3-time world champion, and just the amount of bulls that he put together.
Yeah. And what people forget, and this is by no means a cut on Michael Gaffney, but Adriano doesn't break his leg in 1997. He's a 4-time world champion.
Yeah.
Remember, G-Man, everything had to go right for Gaffney with Adriano out. Anyway.
That's right. And I'm glad you brought up G-Man, because he's up there for me too. And I said it many times throughout my career in interviews. G-Man was the guy that I used as a role model, in and outside. You know how good he is on TV, how well he speaks when he's not dropping the F-bomb too much. But didn't he get in trouble with that with you?
Or to this day, either TV or in arena, Hey, are we tape delayed or are we live today? Oh, we're Michael Gaffney live.
Yeah. I'm sure he's happy I brought that up. But
He
no,
shakes it. Yeah.
he was a guy that was just a great writer and a great person and still is to this day. So I use him as a role model to set some goals after.
That guy's so smooth. Like now in the teams, TV's a big part of what you guys as coaches on the teams, it's kind of nice for guys like me now that I'm doing TV to go to you guys and say, hey, I'm going to catch you before your first rider. There's no fighting it because you guys kind of know going in, TV's a big part of this. That helps us. But all you got to do with Michael Gaffney is, hey, what a day.
Yeah.
And well, Flint got such great ownership here. Got such great guy. The guy's so smooth, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's great.
But yeah, for people who don't know, I brought it up on our episode with him. He thought he was taping a segment and he screwed up and he went, or something. And they went, you're live. Oh,
It happens to us all.
Happens to all of us because people don't know this. Michael Gaffney, one of the nicest men we've ever met in our life. Man, your daughters like him, your mom likes him. And when he walks away, he can swear like he's smooth as silk with the F-bomb in there. Like he's a pro.
Sure. I'm sure he could do it right in front of your grandma and she'd just still think he's the sweetest guy in the world.
My grandmas are dead, but thanks, Luke.
Yeah.
I know it's me.
Hey, grandma, sorry.
When I found out you were a coach for the Missouri Thunder, first of all, a tie-in, a big part of the Missouri Thunder is Bass Pro Shops, correct? What is the role? Is that the team owner, Johnny Morris? Does he own the team? Does Bass Pro Shops own the team? What's the structure there?
Yeah, Johnny Morris is our owner. So you'll see we fly Bass Pro at the top of the flagpole with our team because that's our ownership. I got tapped for the position because I was sponsored by Bass Pro when I was a professional bull rider. And then when I retired, I transitioned into the corporate office and I kind of worked all angles, different corners of the company from I was a brand specialist for our in-house camo to start. And then I ended up being a marketing specialist. I did some things with boat sales and manufacturing. Then I led our off-road department and tracker off-road when we got into that. And then I got pulled back into marketing as senior manager of partnerships for our core partnership. So that's what I was doing when all this was going on. I was handling Bass Pro's core sponsorships like Black Rifle and just, keeping the relationships current and happy. And then Johnny bought this team. And that was one of the greatest calls ever because first of all, I got to get back into a sport that gave me so much and that I love so much. And I got to do it with my best buddy because our obvious first choice was Ross, because to be the co-coach, and in my eyes, he's the one who spends all this time with our guys in Henrietta. I'm here in Springfield at base camp where the operation takes place, and Ross is hands on deck 24/7 with those guys. And Randy Bernard. We had to pull Randy in. Johnny said, Randy, I want you to steer the ship and help us with some partners and keep Luke and Ross in line. So
Randy Bernard's just a good influence. Anything Western sports, his mind just goes. And it always goes. I mean, it's always going somewhere. I used to tell Randy when he was my boss, I said, man, Randy, you have a lot of ideas. And he'd smile. I go, a lot of them are shitty, but you have a lot of them. But he does. That guy will throw spaghetti against the wall until he finds something. Just a good influence in there, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. There's nothing that I can't call him with. And he has a solution and he has it pretty quickly too. He's a great motivator. He knows all the ins and outs. He's just had his hands in so many things, like you said, Western sports related. he's really helped us stay on track and keep our eyes on the things that matter. And I'm honored to be able to have him with us.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Bass Pro Shops fan. I've spent a lot of gift cards. Bass Pro. Can't say I've spent a lot of money, but I've spent a lot of gift cards. Remember, we used to do autograph signings.
Absolutely.
And then I would host Q&As. They'd set up an area, especially in Springfield, right there by the aquarium. And hey, thanks, Flint, and give you, they're nothing better than that stack of Bass Pro gift cards.
I know, that was great. We ought to fire that back up.
I used to joke that, hey, what'd you get? I said, I got a $300 Bass Pro gift card so I can buy 2 Under Armour items. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I love your story with Bass Pro. I mean, that's what we all hope for when we get transition out of the arena, is to have an in where we feel, and I felt like you did it during your career. You were always good on TV, always good with fans. And before I move on, I hope young guys understand that whenever you have those good PR skills, that builds value for you moving on. And that's what it did for you.
That's right. And it's who you surround yourself with, really, because you and I both have known Randy 30 plus years. And I was able to be around Randy before this team's format, being around guys like him, being around guys like Tom Teague. Even when we were young, little pissheads that were just, we were still listening and we were still watching how those guys acted. And then as we got older and longer in our career, you start seeing the end of the road, and you don't want to see the end of the road and then worry about what you're going to do. You want to set goals, and you want to, start working to those things. I mean, sooner the better, really.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's such a natural connection between, and we have a partner here with some of the stuff we do. There's such a natural connection between the outdoorsman and the cowboy. The outdoor world, Western sports world, natural overlap. They're the same people, basically.
That's right. Yeah. And that's why we saw the value in the teams. And just with the whole COVID thing, just the amount of people that either first rediscovered their love for the outdoors, or people found it for the very first time. And I think a lot of that happened with us in the PBR as well, because we were the first sport back, obviously. And we were grabbing some attention, because during that time, people were just wanting to learn about new stuff. I mean, take Tiger King, for instance. I mean, where else would that show it took off like it did, so, and then you're getting the Yellowstone takeoff. Everybody wants to be a cowboy again. It's cool to be a cowboy, but Bass Pro and the outdoors and PBR we've even extended our relationship to be an official team sponsor and a sponsor of the regular season.
Oh, nice.
Too. So
that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Good to know.
We're just investing more into it because we see the value in it, and the PBR fan is a loyal Bass Pro fan.
Yeah, I like Clint Atkins. He fishes in the fish tank in Bass Pro.
That's right. Yeah, I actually got we got this little TV show we're doing on the Cowboy channel called Cowboys of Thunder, and I got to take the boys to a store the other day and let them fish out of the tank, and that was one of the highlights of their life. They said they'd always, ever since they were little, looked at those things and wanted to do that. So I mean, it's kind of you see the kids, these challenges and stuff where these kids try to do it, either fish in it or jump in it, but it's kind of a no-no around here. So
yeah, we used to torture Clint about that. Hey man, like you catch any fish in there? Were there any in there? I mean, they're right in the tank, but were there any in? Oh, he just hate it. But he did a good little workshop. That guy knew. He knows bass fishing. That guy.
He knows his stuff. Every time I see him at the event beforehand, he comes up and he's got to talk something about fishing with me. So he rides one of our Ranger boats. He's a loyal Ranger boat fan, and Bass Pro makes those boats. So
wait, look what you did. You named your kid Ranger. Wow.
Totally unrelated, but yeah, I wasn't using him for a marketing ploy.
Wow. Yeah, I'll go with that. I got it. Kind of back to my original point I started with, when I heard you were going to be a coach, to me, it made complete sense, because check me if I'm wrong, the way I look at the last couple years of your career from the outside looking in at you, and I mean this with all due respect, a lot of us thought you were kind of done. And you kind of took advice and changed how you were working out, what you were doing, got advice. And all of a sudden you come back in, 2011, 2012, and are tough again. And that had to do with not necessarily having a coach, but really getting some coaching and saying, okay, what do I got to do different here to end my career kind of on top? Am I on track there?
Absolutely. Yeah. I had to rededicate myself for sure. I mean, I was still making finals. I was maybe winning an event here and there, but nothing that could compare to those first handful of years. And, I was fortunate to finish off my career like I started it, solely from rededicating to the sport, getting in the gym, treating it like a professional sport. I came from the era where if you got hurt, you just rubbed some dirt on it, or went and had a beer, or both. And then just go and do it again tomorrow. But to me, and some guys can do that and get away with it. But to me, I had to work at it to get back. And that's why I see the value in me being a coach, me bringing some value from the business side of everything, because I've been there. I've been in those guys' shoes. I know what it takes, and I know what didn't work. And I can instill in these guys to make sure that it works for them. And the same thing, we learned a lot. We knew all the stuff that worked and some of the stuff that didn't work. And between both of those, there's valuable information to share there.
Yeah. I don't know. I've said through this, whether you really appreciate and love the teams thing or not, to see Cowboys actually getting help from world champions and guys that were in their shoes, it took a whole different format and invention to have a lot of those guys do it. And with all of the money they can win, and I'm not talking just PBR, I mean, rodeo guys are making, the NFR pays 30 grand a round now. It's funny that a lot of them, that it takes this for a lot of them to seek advice. That's kind of, it's like it falls back on that cowboy independence. We're not like those basketball players. We don't get help. When with this much money and this much opportunity, it only makes sense.
Sure. And I mean, it's always been there. Guys like Cody Lambert has always had an open door policy for anybody. And all these great legends and champions, it's always been there. I just don't know if there was ever a road in these riders' mind that would allow them to just go right up there and ask. So now with the teams format, I mean, these guys have first name, cell phone call, training during the week with these guys. And you see a lot of it really paying off dividends for a lot of guys. And some guys, even in the UTV series, after they transition from teams, that connection doesn't end. A lot of the fans, like, these coaches continue working with these guys on an annual basis, not just for the 5 months that we do teams. So it's an all-in situation.
I remember when Jess Lockwood, he turned 18 and he headed out and moved to Cody Lambert's place, and fans were just ripped them both about, oh, Lambert's little boy, he's favoring Jess Lockwood. Why'd he pick him? And like Lambert said, I invite them all. I'd take them all. And he'd pick out guys and say, I told him to come stay with me all summer and he didn't. So what can I do? I've invited them all. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. A lot of people don't realize what Cody Lambert is, besides he's got this, he plays a role. He plays a character in a movie that he's this old fart that's grouchy to everybody. And boy, there's a big heart in there, that guy.
Yeah. Oh, big heart. And I don't know if you've ever heard any poems from him. I've never heard a single poem though either.
Yeah, that whole That whole 8 seconds thing, man, that Cody Lambert, he can write a poem as they're coming into Cheyenne, and he stole Baxter Black's poem about bull ride. Cowboy wasn't. That's Baxter Black, man. Yeah, that Lambert. That's a poem stealing some bitch. He is. Okay, Cody Lambert is not. He doesn't write poems, but he is poetic.
He is poetic. Yes. He. He is just such a great guy, and he's always he may have the image on the outside to some fans is kind of hard nosed to the grindstone, but the guys that he gets under his wing, they know him and love him, and he his knowledge, even to us. I mean, we're on rival teams, but anytime he's talking, me and Ross are listening.
Yeah, he 2 weeks ago, their first bull of the night got out the gate. We hadn't bucked a bull. Remember, and that bull ran around the ring, and he was so mad, or he was pretending to be mad. Whatever, I don't know. Sometimes, and his assistant coach Cade swore he was chewing out somebody, and I said to Cade, he should be mad, but I think he's taking it out on the wrong guy. And Cade said, "Hold on, he'll get them all." He'll get them all.
Yeah. just give it a little bit.
Yeah, but then he'll be chewing somebody out or yelling, and he'll kind of turn and wink. It's anyway.
Sure. Well, I think the world needs a little bit of that. If you screw up, you can't just get a pat on the back all the time. So
that's right. I agree. By the way, Ridgedale, Missouri, which it's on the schedule as Ridgedale, Missouri. Is there a town? Because we stay in Branson. I fly into Springfield. I drive the hour or whatever it is to Branson, and then the 15 miles up in the freaking hills. That place, he has built quite the place up there, Johnny Morris.
It is, that's where Big Cedar Lodge is, and Nature's Amphitheater is where we're going to host our home event. But it's really special. It's got a heck of a view over Table Rock Lake. And, we had an event there last year, and then Garth Brooks came and played there last year is what, between those two really put us on the map. But, I would just call Ridgedale, for anybody that listens, is just wondering where the heck it is. It's just a little suburb of Branson. Basically Big Cedar and the Outdoor Academy sit in Ridgedale. It's not a very big little town.
Yeah. One road in there. I couldn't believe pulling in there last year. Arena, just for you and I's sake, this won't mean anything unless they were there. A little different setup this year. Remember last year, Garth was getting ready for his concert. So the stage was there, shoots on both ends. It was a mile back and forth. A little different setup this year, I'm thinking.
Yeah. It's going to be a little bit more like Cheyenne. We're going to make it more intimate. The bulls we're going to move the stage closer to the amphitheater seating, and then the bulls are going to buck straight at the crowd instead of from left to right. Because if you remember, we had that side by side for you guys.
I didn't use it. Not me.
No,
I ran.
Well, there you go. I love it. The stock contractors were definitely using it to get back and forth, but it was a long ways because our stage is massive. So we just had to kind of build our operation around it. But this year it's going to be straight bull riding. I think the fans are really going to love it because they're going to be right a lot closer to it.
Well, I appreciate you making the arena smaller and moving it closer to the fans now that I'm not in the arena. Appreciate that, Luke. That's great. That was great. That was the one teams event last year that I was in the arena all 3 days. I remember I was doing TV a night, and that was the one, and it might have driven me to retirement. My knees might have been shot by the end of that.
That was a long jog for sure, back and forth.
Yeah. You guys as a team made a little trip. You actually went to Brazil, didn't you?
We did. Ross and I hopped a plane and we went down there. We went to Adriano Moraes' ranch, and we just kind of worked with his son, and we said, hey, what are the odds that you can get about 15 to 20 of the best talent that Brazil has to offer, and get them all in one spot, and let us come down there and do some interviews and watch them ride. And he said, let me make a few phone calls. And he called back in about 3 days and said, he gave us a 2-day window when all those guys were going to be close. And some of these guys jumped at the opportunity knowing that an actual PBR team was going to show interest and come down there. Guys drove 10, 11 hours. Some of them did. And he gave us a couple days and we bought a plane ticket on the spot and flew down there and spent 3 days in Brazil and watched these guys get on about 25 head of bulls and had a translator and interviewed them all. And me and Ross, we made a list on the way back home, an ideal list of who we would want to see. And fast forward to draft day, some of those guys that are on our team now came out of that trip. So
it would be interesting to me. I'm very interested in people's backgrounds. Even here, I ask people all the time, where are you from? Like waiters, or where are you from? Because I always want to try to relate their story. Brazil, I can't imagine the difference, even the guys we know, Jose Vitor Leme had a good upbringing from all that I hear. I remember Marco Aguchi was a skateboarder city kid, but there was people, Robson Palermo, remember he lived in a dirt floor house with no shoes in the jungle. These guys, a lot of them come from, we don't know what it means to come from nothing compared to some of these guys in Brazil.
No, that's absolutely right. I look back on some of the old features that CBS or TNN and Versus used to do, where it would visit those guys' houses in dirt floors. They're growing up on dirt floor shacks, and their only way out is with a bull rope. And then they follow that dream. It's just hard to fathom, because they rode that dream all the way from Brazil over here, and a lot of those guys are made millions of bucks. And some of them stayed and some of them went home. But if you win $1 million here in America, that's like 3 million in Brazil. So they can set themselves up after a world championship to where them and their whole family are easy street. So I think you'll see a lot of motivation from those guys that you won't see. From, I'll say, like, some people in America that grow up with a silver spoon may not try as hard because they've had it easy the whole time.
There's a plan B. They have a plan B.
Yeah, they'll just go get a job somewhere shaping hats or whatever.
Shaping hat. See, look at random, this hat shaper. There you go.
Yeah. They can figure something out to do to make a buck.
Yeah. What's Adriano's place like in Brazil? I need to know.
Absolutely beautiful. It is beautiful. We rode horses up on top of this peak and just looked over the whole. It's what you would expect a 3-time world champions to invest in after all that, and it's a really proud moment to sit on top of that hill, too, because the PBR gave me so much, but to see what the PBR has done for some of these guys, because Adriano was a kid like that. He was sleeping 6 deep in a hotel or sleeping on Ty Murray's floor. And the PBR gave him all that. So, it's a testament to any kid out there that wants to be a bull rider, what you can make and achieve doing it.
Yeah. Adriano, he was the original, and it does. I remember, Renato Nunez, who I don't know that we forget about it. There are world champs out there. You go, oh yeah, Renato. I remember when he was winning money and he won the world title, and he took it home and bought a ranch. Yeah. In Brazil, we win $1 million here. You and I don't know that we could buy a ranch like Renato did. Brazil, sure. That I think it's cool. It's like you said, it gives them a lot, from where they come from.
Oh, it's big. We have some guys on our team that are married or are newlyweds, and they're over here providing for they're away from their family. Their family's, thousands of miles away, and they're making the bare minimum that they need to survive on and get by on day to day, and they're packing the rest home, taking care of theirs. And there's more motivation in that than anything else I can think of, that they're riding for not just themselves, but to provide.
Yeah. It's cool. And I thought it was cool you guys went over there. Everything you do and you talk about, I picture doing it with Ross Coleman. Like I could just see Ross riding horses on Adriano's. Right. That's cowboy shit right there. Damn.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We were chasing, he checking out cows and whipping and riding, and it was just such a blast. He is just what he's done for those guys too. I got to brag on him for a minute. When they came over here, a lot of those guys settled in Decatur. Ross was in Henrietta. It's about 45 minutes away, I'd say, give or take an hour. And we found these guys a house, and a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom house. There's like 4 of them in there. And those guys are at Ross and Amy Coleman's house daily, flipping tires, riding horses, just learning from Ross Coleman, one of the best cowboys we know, cowboy shit. So they're getting a first-class education and everything cowboy from Ross. So he's with them daily.
Yeah, Ross Coleman, he's just a cowboy. People forget when he came out of high school, 3-event rough stock guy. I remember when he said, I'm just going to the PBR. It kind of surprised me because he was such a good bareback rider and bronc rider, that it kind of surprised me that I didn't know if bull riding was his best event at the time. That's how I felt.
Yeah. And it's funny. We were just talking about it yesterday that, I think Ross's first PBR finals was 99. And he said that when him and his dad, Steve Coleman, were leaving that arena, he said, Ross, I think it'd be in your best interest to put all your eggs in this PBR basket, because I think it's going somewhere. And he said he kind of just made up his mind right there that he was going to be a PBR guy.
Steve Coleman, through my career, has told me a lot of things, and every time he talked to me, I listened to it, because that's Steve Coleman, Ross's dad. That guy, he's had a lot of knowledge, whether it's ranching, cowboy, and rodeo. I always listen to that guy.
Oh yeah. Such great memories there at the place in Malala, Oregon. Mount Hood sits in the background, and back then in the day, he would do his branding during the week. We'd be in between 2 events. So he'd get 30 bull riders, 25, 30 bull riders out to the ranch, put them all up, and we'd get 850 head of cows and calves done in about 3 days. And about out of 30 of those guys, probably 12 of them could rope and really cowboy. So, but by the end of that week, Steve had those guys feeling like they were John Wayne, though. He felt like he could just steer them the right way and show them what to do. And if they couldn't rope very good, they'd work ground crew. But those were great memories. And Steve still is to this day. I mean, we'll call him on the road, and he'll kind of give us some insight of what he's seeing from an outside perspective watching TV too. So he's a good guy.
I believe when my girls were little, they swam in that pool, as a matter of fact, at their place. I did not realize, because I guess I can't put together. I sometimes forget who overlaps with bulls and guys. You got on Bushwacker 4 times. I didn't realize that. And notice I said, you got on him 4 times. You got on him 4 times.
Yeah. And I think the one time that I thought I may have had him, I think the longest I took him, your probably stats show better, I think I rode him 4 seconds one time. So probably out of three times, I maybe made 8.
For fans' sake.
4 times.
Yeah, right. Exactly. For fans who are watching, the questions we get from fans are not necessarily things you and I talk about, like best bulls, best rider, but for fans' sake, what was, I think Bushwacker, even compared to now, or even better than now, that's one of the greatest bulls ever. He was quick. He was unpredictable. He was strong. When you rode Bushwacker, when you got bucked off, what was your thought of that bull? Analysis of him?
He was the greatest bull in my era, and what made him so great is he was the total package. He'd roll in the chute, and he would just stand there dead calm, not move, not lean on your leg, not rear up, not buck in there. And you almost wanted him to do that to get your motor running a little bit more, because you knew what he was about to do as soon as you nodded. And for him to just roll in there and stand like a shot dog and just say, you know what I'm about to do. But he had everything. He had the kick, he had the speed, you know, the direction change with him. Like if he'd start one way, he could change leads and go back the other way on a dime. So he was a total package, and you know, he didn't pull any punches. Sometimes he would kind of have different trips, and I think he was smart in that aspect, to where if he thought guys were figuring him out one way, you know, if they were warming him up, he'd try something else out. I mean, these animals are smart.
Someone else told me the same thing, that it'd freak him out a little bit, that he'd stood right in the middle of the chute, and they said it was almost like, what are we doing here? Like, and he'd stand there and they looked down and he was looking at him. He was looking back like this, like, you ready? They said it was the freakiest thing ever.
Yeah. He for something that you knew was going to what he was going to do, to stand like that and not even twitch his ear. It was like just sitting in a dragster car that when the green light hits, and then you just stop the pedal and just get slammed in the back of your seat.
Well, I'm sorry you don't have a notch on your belt that you rode Bushwacker, but there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. I think it was Cord McCoy told me that he really enhanced Bushwacker's career by making him look so good. Like he got his marks up there where they needed to be.
Yeah.
You guys, before I let you go, the Missouri team, it's got to be frustrating for you guys. You have a bunch of young guys. You brought young guys over from Brazil. We're only halfway through the season as we do this, but there's a frustration there. You haven't ridden a lot of bulls, and bull riding and rodeo in general is one of those ones where you want to push your guys, but they can't press. Like in rodeo, if you start pushing and pressing, it defeats the purpose. I would think it's hard to navigate as your guys aren't riding what you're thinking the way they should.
Oh, you know, we've had a lot of heartbreaking moments, and it is very frustrating. It's frustrating for Ross and I. It's frustrating for the guys. You know, we have that camaraderie there. Like these guys, I get videos sent to me daily. I mean, I got one this morning that these guys, the amount of work they put in during the week is on another level. Nobody is ever going to accuse these guys of not working out and putting in the effort. But one muscle that's the hardest muscle to work out is the one between your ears. And these guys are young, and these lights are very bright, and there is a factor to this sport that you have to get over some of that and let it become just another event and get complete tunnel vision. So we just really drill into these guys. You know, there's that first effort, but the second and third effort is going to win. I mean, we're riding a lot of them right to the whistle, but they need to put on the afterburners, and they'll get there. I mean, me and Ross are, like you said, we're halfway through the year, and we're fully confident with this team we picked. There was a reason why we picked them, and they're going to figure it out. And there's a lot of games left. You know, we have 5 events left or something, and 3 games apiece per 5 games. So there's a lot of ground left to make up.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you doing this, but to have, when the team stuff came out and I kind of was navigating through how it all worked, then I saw who the coaches were. Michael Gaffney, Lambert I saw anyway, but Michael Gaffney and Cody Lowstrom, Cord McCoy, and you and Ross and G-Man. And I'm not necessarily, I get along with all the bull riders now and in the last few years of my career, but I'm not friends with them because they're my kids' age. When people ask, I always say, a generation ago, I was friends with Ross Coleman, Justin McBride, Luke Snyder, Brendan Clark. We were friends. We go
Yeah.
have drinks together, and it's changed. So when the teams came out and I saw who all the coaches were, my pards are, I get to be around some pards.
Yeah.
So that's been my favorite part of the whole thing, is just being around you guys again. It's been good.
I feel exactly the same way. It's just been so great, just reliving all the old stories and making new stories, making new chapters to the friendship. So it's I think the teams is the greatest thing that's happened to Western sports. There is. I think you haven't even seen the end of it, and like you haven't even seen how big this is going to get. And it's going to be the next big thing. So I just so proud of our guys and so proud of everybody that put it together, and sure appreciate you having me on.
You bet. It's always good to see you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet.